Welcome back. Felt like saying welcome back to my Patreon section or welcome back to one of my podcast episodes. But it's been YouTube. It's been a while since I did YouTube, huh? Where you guys been? It's been 3 years. And the spiritual world is a lot different now than it was 3 years ago, right? A lot different. Um, you know, you guys are spiritual, so spiritual people tend to be in space. No offense, right? No offense. I've been doing podcasts since 2015. I've had a Patreon section 2021 or 22. I've been doing YouTube shorts, and yet I still get people say, "Where you been?" And I get it. I get it. There's a lot of spiritual material on social media, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, all that. But I don't I don't do this for popularity, so it's not like I'm doing this for like where I expect the majority of people to care. But there's really good people I've encountered who really mess with my work, and yet they don't, it's not on. Spiritual people you guys just tend to have your own vibe, and you guys tend to be in your own world. And so, I decided to come back to that world. And it's interesting because it's a lot different now, right? It's more spiritual options. A lot of things happened, right? COVID lockdowns, threats of World War III. People would act like Donald Trump's the end of the world. But in all those things, the thing that I find is most concerning is a lack of progress in the spiritual world. People are still on chakras. People are still on sage, right? People are still on, like sage to clear up your space. People are still on, I'm going to use a crystal and I'm going to be able to access higher energies through crystals. Not saying none of those things are not true. Or people are still saying if I take this drug, take the shrooms, I got a spiritual experience. Ayahuasca, DMT. Not saying none of those things are true. But what I'm saying is people are talking about shamanistic or psychedelics since the 60s. Chakras since the 70s. 2024, Papa, what's up? Right? The New Agers put everything on aliens. Then the government comes out right before COVID, find it interesting. Admits aliens is a thing. Well, UFOs is a thing. You don't know if it's aliens. Right? I find that interesting. If 2020 or 21 was 2012, all the UFO people would have been happy. Right? So, and in the Hotep community, they're still on, melanin's going to make them a superpower. And they act like that's going to actually count as real magic, or fighting for ancient empires that are so ancient, even if you have claim to them, like let's say Egypt, those energies are not really active. Then when you have active energies in sub-Saharan Africa, you don't really deal with it because you're scared of being black. See, in 2014, 11, 13, I've been doing this since 2009. I played nicer with you guys. I understand this is YouTube. So it will be like how somebody on my YouTube, when I put on a YouTube short, right? So I would get people on YouTube shorts who don't know my work, or I speak about so much diverse things in YouTube shorts, right? That they think that I'm all about that. So I will speak about passport bros, for instance, right? And if I speak about passport bros, the person thinks that's all I deal with, right? So if you say some slick shit about that, you don't really know I deal with a whole bunch of other things, right? And to show you, because some of you guys don't pay attention to my shorts, but my point to all that was to say, my protection, my shield is my unique information. Not that it's unique, not that other people don't have it. It's a diversity. Your spiritual teachers go and speak about their spiritual stuff, and if even that, if even that, right? Like a Wiccan might not know that American Wicca and European Wicca are completely different. American Wicca it's influenced by Hoodoo, right? A lot of Wicca is a recreation of older European paganism. A lot of times they may not know that, or they do. They know it from a book. They don't know it from experience. A lot of people in America, especially, they never been to Scandinavia. I've been to Scandinavia, and I effed some Scandinavian pussy. They never done all that shit. They never, you know, they never been to the cemetery. They never did any of that, right? So they practice magic, and they're like, nah. And then they're mixing this kind of spirituality with this kind of like Greek Indian fusion, where they're getting a lot of morals and you know, it ends up being really confusing, right, in a sense. So that kind of limits them. So for me, the diversity of the subjects that I talk about is my defense, my shield. So when I kind of, you know, there was times in 2014, 15, 16, I would put YouTube videos out, but I wasn't as active because I had to come back with a lot of firepower, right? So like I said, this is YouTube. You're going to have some people on YouTube say some slick shit, but they don't know, right? They don't know because they're used to spiritual teachers who take this shit serious, and yet they're not making any progress. They're used to spiritual teachers who be in a theoretical stage forever. Don't know about astral travel, don't know about shit. Fuck all that. Don't know about simple meditation, like real for real, right? Right? Never been to Asia, never did any of that. Never been to Africa. And if they did, they go to one or two countries in Africa. I went up and down that bad boy. West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, like 3 years after apartheid, did all that shit. Right? They never did none of that. And you could hear it in the way they speak and deliver the information. You could hear it because it feels like they're reading from a script. So I'm spiritual, so I'm supposed to be vegan. I'm spiritual, so I'm not supposed to like pussy. That's what they're on. And, you know, 2010, 12, 13, 14, I'll play that game. I'm not really playing that game now. Because in 2013, 14, 15, I didn't really know everything that's out there. You can't go to the Hotep community. Nah, that's easy. New Age community is easy. Conspiracy community, a little bit high level too. But they're on the same stuff they're on too, right? You can speak about Illuminati all day. Freemasons have been a boys club for a long time. They haven't had spiritual power since World War II. World War I maybe actually, right? People confuse all kind of secret societies. Just put a Masonic banner on it, right? Anybody who's an initiate can tell those individuals don't know what they're talking about. Half the people talk about Freemasons, a real bona fide initiate for the Western secret society, could tear them in 10 minutes and know this guy don't know what he's talking about. They know it. Then other people, you know, they kind of triggered by YouTube, triggered by, you know, like this is YouTube. You're always gonna have sucky comments. This is what happens. But in the end, when I'm back now making YouTube videos, I'm gonna unleash diversity. You're gonna see many different topics, not just spiritual. The different topics is a shield. When you go back to your spiritual, whatever you call them, then definitely not masters, and you look at them, and they know not even one subject, a quarter of a subject, a quarter. Then when you observe that, that's between you and them. When you go to the conspiracy person, and the conspiracy person says, the Illuminati, the Masons, the conspiracy people who decoded what they're supposed to decode know there's names way beyond the Masons. There's names, you say those names, they'll come for you. And they don't gotta come in the physical. They could do that too. Right? There's names, they'll let you talk about those names. Real conspiracy people are supposed to know that. So Alex Jones is cool, I guess. When he gets worked up over the names he's calling on, I'm like, dude, this name's way above that. You getting worked up on those pawns? Shit. I'm not telling you you're supposed to say those names. I'm not saying that at all. Anyone who's put work in the streets, anyone who's Even war. Even war. Even in war, like Russia and America going to war right now, right? They're pretending not. They use Ukraine, right, as a proxy. You could technically take a flight to Russia, and the Russian could take a flight here, technically. But we know it's war. But when the opponent is strong, you don't make it public. Even laws of power hints at that. You do, but you fight behind the scenes. So we've been flooded with amateur hour, right? When it comes to spirituality. And there's no wonder why our spirituality is not proactive. It's the same, it hasn't evolved. And then we wonder why. It's obvious. So all the players, it's fragmented. The Hotepers think they're better than New Agers. New Agers think they're better than Hotepers. The conspiracy people, I think the conspiracy people a little bit have both of those because they're kind of a little bit more grounded, but they're not really. Not really. Right? So you got those three groups. And when people are doing this, they think free thinkers and advanced people are those three groups. Joe Rogan is the biggest podcast in the world. And when he pulls from the conspiracy wing or from the alternative thinking wing, it's those three groups. Many New Ages and conspiracy, but just those three groups. With a little trace, a little hint at the occultists who are learned men. The occultists who not really initiates, right? I don't want to say they're initiates, but they take Golden Dawn rituals. They know how to use that. The LBR, the Rose Cross, the Middle Pillar, right? They make videos, right? Some of them even are part of organizations that have partial clearance. Partially, right? So that becomes the fourth group. And that group is probably ahead of the other three. But then you get the fifth group, the real initiates, right? Who rise to the top of Western society. I don't talk about it from the conspiratorial angle because there's people at the top who are negative. So are the positive ones, right? You could trace origin to the Persians, trace origin to the aspects of Kemet, right? You can trace the origins, to a few places, but for the most part, you're going to start with the West. So the Greeks, then the Romans' interpretation of Egyptian spirituality, right? And what we call Hermeticism. Well, those people become far ahead of the first four that I mentioned, right? Far ahead. The first four I mentioned, far ahead of the regular cultists. And the regular cultists are far ahead of the conspiracy people. And the conspiracy people are far ahead of the Hotepers. And the Hotepers, I'm going to give the Hotepers their head of New Ages. I guess. But I'm going to give them that, right? But the average spiritual seeker doesn't know these worlds exist, and they kind of blend to one of the first three worlds, right? They don't understand how the Egyptians taught the Greeks. And Hermeticism is a copy of that, and they're the ones. And when Egypt fell, they're the inheritors of that. You could spin it, you could flip it. Then the Jews and the Hebrews and the Christians, Gnostics and the Muslims, Sufis all come in. It's all kind of the same lineage, but makes it complicated, right? You got the Jews were in Rome, right? And Spain rose. The Jews were in Spain, right? So you have all this. You got the Sufi Moors from Senegal to Morocco, going as far as southern Philippines to Sri Lanka. Got a lot of players. But still kind of part of the same kind of lineage. That Greek, Roman, copy of Egypt, which was kind of the offshoot of Nubia, right? Which you could even go back even further and say all of them were trying to recreate something that people will call Atlantis or something, where it was an idea, a real place. They're trying to recreate that. So you have all these things. And the lack of progress is because they're all different worlds. People are all into their own worlds. I'm talking to all y'all. And when people tap into my channel, We're getting all that because this is the time, in this sense. And because of the separation of all those groups, which is little worlds, everyone's in their own bubble. And if everyone's blind, the one-eyed man is king. So yeah, Hermeticism is probably the superior spiritual system in terms of what they produced, without question. But if we go when Egyptian Heka became the 4 pillars of Hermeticism, by conservative estimates, that was 10% of the knowledge in Kemet, or by liberal estimates, 33%. And I'm not one of those Hotep guys that say, oh yeah, well, it's 32%, 10%, so that means they don't have the secrets. Nah, dudes, if you a Hotep dude, beat the initiates. Have more knowledge than them. If you're going to say you resurrect Egypt, and why are you resurrecting it? You can go straight to Sub-Sahara, and those stuff is still active, fuse it with legitimate science. Right? It's at the end of the day, the only way you're going to get out this shit, science and spirituality have to be merged. So yes, the respect for science has to be there. We don't need actors pretending to be better than Einstein. We don't need that shit. I mean, you could do it, but it ain't going to get you anywhere. Science and spirituality have to be merged together eventually. When that merger takes place, good things will happen. It's not going to be easy, though. It's easy to be extreme. It's easy to be not flexible. You know, when I first came in 2009 and 10, I spoke about immortal societies. No one on YouTube, even to this day, really talks about that. You might have some references of the Siddhars and Chinese immortals. That's it. That's stuff that was already there. I was talking about that and unknown immortals. When I spoke about dark treasures and army lords and all these type of things, yeah, there's people who had sight, who saw there was something, but they couldn't tell what it was. Other people said, oh, you're making it up. And that stuff is not going to be at the center of what I present, but it's still going to be there. And if I would say, damn, I deleted a lot of my videos because I wasn't up to par what I wanted, I would say 2009, the young me, this is 15 years later or 14 years later, I got 65% stuff right, 35% stuff I would say over again. And yet that 65% stuff right 14, 15 years ago, I could look on YouTube, I could look on TikTok, and I don't see it. I don't look at that as great for me. I look at that as just scary in that sense. So, though you may not, for those who practice spiritual systems, anything, could be Hinduism, could be Voodoo, could be Wicca, we are representatives of the gods we claim to be in touch with, right? So if you're going to say that you're in touch with those forces, you be a representative for those forces. People are supposed to look at your knowledge that you have and see it. Half you guys do spiritual stuff for a year or two, you run out of information, then you become gossip channels and all kind of stuff. Because you're not really tapping into anything, or with the stuff you're tapping into, it's limited in scope. Here's what we're going to do. That stuff that you're tapping into, we're going to tap into that too, and we're going to take it to another level. Dark treasures, army lords, all that good shit. All that good stuff. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make you guys look bad. I don't care who it is. From the east to the west, from Asia, South America, it don't matter who it is. North America, Canada, Idaho. Let's do it. It's a new time. The way you get out of this shit is proactive spirituality, which is what some people call magic. How long are you going to talk about chakras? How long are you going to try to prove that Christianity is real, not real, Christianity real, not real? How long are you going to do that? You've been talking about Christianity real, not real for 20, 30, 40 years, right? Instead of saying, you know what? Christianity conquered a lot of the world. So for something that you guys say is not real, or is a fake, or is this, they did their thing. Whether you agree with it or not, they did their thing. So there's a type of realness that needs to be had that I guess only grown-ups do. But like all things, it's time to grow up and I'm back. And I hope some of you guys will come with me. And I hope some of you guys, as much as you think the YouTube is, we taking this to Patreon as well. Because I don't make no mistake about it. First of all, I'm not a saint. I should get some kind of compensation financially, right? And second, YouTube is a clown show, for sure. YouTube is the wall. YouTube is the filter. If you're serious, right, you take that journey to the other side. If you're not serious, we could chop it up here and there. No hard feelings. I'm gonna still make your teachers look bad, but it's all good. It's all love. So I'm glad to be back. Hope we could chop it up sometime. Siris King, what up? Let's get at it. Till next time, peace.